Joan, because the men started 45 seconds too early. They had a false start.
Right, she had the road all to herself until mile 8, and then when you come in on a bunch of men who are running side by side, that's going to take from her focus for a while, and then she'll get back. You can watch her run, and she's sort of trying to keep them out of her focus. She sort of moves around on the street to find her own space. And in third place is Camila Gratis from Poland, and she's closing the gap on Olga Markova, who's still in second place, but she closed it considerably in the last mile. She's now only 15 seconds behind Olga.
Okay, so we could have at least a three-way race before this thing is over. The men, they're still much more bunched than the women are in this competition. There's a look at them, and a good look, again, at Brooklyn. Larry?
Jim, right here in Greenpoint, this is a place of the world-famous Steinway pianos are made for years, but it's the athletes that are providing the virtuoso performances out here. This is an amazing pace for the men's race so far, if our clockwork is correct, and I think it is. Into this headwind, and I know it's cool, they're running very, very strongly. 14 runners are up here. Paul Pilkington is due to drop out in the next mile or two, the man who's been pulling everybody along this human convoy. After that, I think this men's race is going to open up. We'll start seeing surging tactics. First Avenue will probably inspire people. The men's race will blow open, I think, in the next couple of miles. Huge group up here for a very fast first half of the marathon.
Now, Marty, for whom is Pilkington rabbiting? For Ed Eyestone?
No, for
everybody?
For everyone.
Why does he do that?
Well, on a windy day like this, especially, if there wasn't a rabbit, no one would want to sacrifice themselves for the first 13 miles of the race. So we would see a 2:18 or 2:20 pace, most likely when there are 15-mile-an-hour headwinds. So it's a real stroke of luck that they did get someone to set the pace in this race this year, because they haven't really done it very often in the past.
Okay, and a big turn right there, and we're going to turn away and then return. We're over the bridge, the big bridge, into Manhattan. Now, there they are on the Pulaski Bridge. That's the halfway mark.
A little bit of excitement as they came up on the wheelchair races, as well as one of the police on a motorcycle. Lamek Aguda, who was leading, had to do some open field running. He's now back in the pack, but that's an interesting development that Lamek Aguda of Kenya has joined that lead pack. And obviously Paul Pilkington, who was the pace setter, has now dropped out. Andres Espinoza is number 2. He was second here last year, and now the man going into the lead is from South Africa. We saw him in the first mile take the lead after talking with Willie Matolo, and he is Mabuli. He's only run 2:16 for a previous marathon. We thought when he went back earlier that was the last we'd see of him, but he is back up there now.
Well, that's a surprise, but the two Mexicans are there almost side by side, very well placed.
27 is Lamek Aguda of Kenya. And Kim of Korea still hanging in there, hasn't showed his face to the front of the pack, but he's been there. He's been solid all along. He was the man who ran at the lead in Barcelona for the first 30 kilometers, helped his teammate to win the gold medal, and then dropped back to 28th place. So he knew at the Olympics he wasn't ready to run. He was overtrained. He sacrificed himself, but he says he's ready to run a good one today.
Marty, they did the half marathon in 1:04. Pretty fast time.
Well, that was exactly the pace that was requested. So
they got it.
Things are on schedule. One of the surprises is Marcus Barreto of Mexico, who's up there in the all-white, who has not been having a good year, and previous to this was not known as a marathoner, but because of an Achilles injury had moved to the longer distance training. We'll see if he really can last the distance. He's number 41 running in all-white. Then you have Kim. Cruz has moved back, but remember, there are 4 Mexicans up there, so they can control this race right now.
Espinoza right there in the lead right now. Andres Espinoza, 29-year-old Mexican runner.
Since he won this, since he was second in this race last year, Espinoza has improved his personal best for the 10 kilometers by 57 seconds. So he's a much better runner than he was last year.
Best
Now the
marathon
leader.
time so far, 2 hours and 10 minutes. He's on a faster pace than that right now. Let's take a look at some of the best times. Now, there is the world's best time. There's no official world record because the marathon courses vary so much around the world. But the world's best is Belén Densimo of Ethiopia, 2:06:50 back in 1988. That is fast, no matter where it was. And the American record, Alberto Salazar, 2:08:52. That was in the Boston Marathon, and Densimo's was in Rotterdam. The course record here, Juma Ikanga of Tanzania. We remember him well 3 years ago.
Right.
Now, Joe, here are the women, and here is the woman who is leading the race, surrounded by males.
Lisa looks very comfortable. She's focused still, and you can be sure those men running around her want to break 2:30, and I think they pretty much believe that Lisa will break 2:30.
She is not wearing white gloves in the old-fashioned style to be
No.
stylish. What is the reason for the gloves? I mean, it's not that cold out there.
No, but your digits tend to get very cold early on, and I'm surprised they really haven't discarded them yet. Last year, I remember Garcia did finish with his gloves on. It's just a matter of comfort and what makes you comfortable.
Okay. It's the New York City Marathon. There are the women's standings. Right there yet. That's the Queensboro Bridge, known to most New Yorkers as the 59th Street Bridge, after which a song was written some years ago that you may recall, the 59th Street Bridge song. Well, that's it, right there. However, things are happening in the men's division. Here we have Lamek Aguda of Kenya, 21-year-old runner, running right along with Espinoza of Mexico. Marty?
Well, Lamek is running his first marathon, and he has really been all over the road. He goes to the front, then he drops back to fifth. At the last water stop, he got water, and he opened up about a 10-meter gap, and then he went back. So his pace is very erratic. That's a little distracting to the rest of the field as Espinoza tries to focus just on the road ahead and is almost trying to ignore him. Kim looks very dangerous back there in sixth. The surprising thing is that Alejandro Cruz has dropped out of the first pack, and that's a bit of a surprise.
Aguda, like many of the Kenyans, comes from the mountainous country in western Kenya, ran to school as a boy about 4 miles each way. Larry?
Jim,
Like
two of the last 4 years, Steve Jones in 1988, and going back 1 year after that, Juma Ikanga broke the race open between 14 and 15 miles, and we saw that big move happen here, and it was Aguda that pressed the pace and spread-eagled that group of 14 that had dwindled actually to 12, and about 5 of them fell back, including Alejandro Cruz. Tony Nimchuk fell back as well. They're struggling to regain that pack up there. But the goal of surging is to try and break these athletes up and break their will, and now the race is really underway in the men's race.
I think all that metal on the bridge is also breaking up our picture a little bit. Now back to the women, and the leader still, Lisa Ondieki. They're on the Pulaski Bridge, which is the smaller bridge, the halfway mark in the race. That's not the same one that the men are on.
No, it's not. It's about 2 miles, a little less than 2 miles before the Pulaski Bridge, and you know, what can I say? Lisa looks in total control there. I bet she wishes she knew how far behind the other people were. I am wondering what's going to happen with the pack that includes Irina Bogacheva, Gordon Block from New York, Kim Jones, the American, and Yoshiki Yamamoto, because there's
Here is Kim, yeah. Fourth in the 1990 marathon, as you see, the New York City Marathon.
They're about 2.5 minutes right now, I think, behind Lisa.
Let's go to Marianne Gravoy on the course.
Jim, I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, so my apologies. But we're with Kim Jones. We're coming up on the Pulaski Bridge. She has in front of her, about 20 yards ahead of her, Irina Bogacheva of Kyrgyzstan, Sabatini of Italy, and Yamamoto of Japan. Now, ahead of her, again, is Olga Markova and, of course, Lisa Ondieki. But that put her about 6th place. And she looks...
I don't know.
I'm sorry I can't hear her.
Okay, we weren't talking to you, Marianne. We got what you were saying.
Joni, what do you think about the way Kim looks? You know, she's coming back from that foot injury. You know what she looks like from the side, from behind. Does she look like she's struggling?
She looks very smooth to me right now, very controlled, and as you might
No, Marty. Kim is asthmatic, and she told us earlier in the week that she would run a very controlled start because she did not want to have an asthmatic attack out there before the race really